do not have the kind of exposure that they would expect to work in that kind of environment. And then, I mean, the assumption is that our businesses are generally small, which is generally true relative to the kind of large businesses that you will see in the UK. So a typical large business in Nigeria will probably be like a mid-sized business in the UK. I mean, so they feel the exposure is limited and it can take a while to settle. The second thing is that there's also the bias that the cultural fit can be a bit of challenge. And for them, it still ties down to the exposure that I don't think people down here have seen a lot to be able to settle in very quickly in that environment. And that takes me to my first point is that, it's important that you understand the biases that are potentially going to work against you. And if you understand them, then you're able to prepare against those areas. And that's why because your first selling point really, in my view, is your CV. Your CV needs to be able to demonstrate that, yes, even though there's this general bias that exists, even though generally people can be like this, but I am a special finance professional, I'm a special accountant. And so you want to demonstrate your strong competencies on your CV, the kind of things that you have done, and the size of businesses that you have done it for. And I'll give you an example. So while I was doing my CV, yes, I'd worked in the big for the large part of my career, but there was a point I worked in a manufacturing business, Dangote. Yes, Dangote is popular across the world, but if you are not, the same way you have people in Nigeria that don't know what's happening across the world, you also have those kinds of people in the UK that don't know what happens outside the UK. And many people in the UK that have never heard of Dangote. And so to just put it on my CV to say I was tax manager in Dangote is not strong enough. It doesn't mean anything to them. So I had to do some high level. So one bullet point to explain the size of the business. So this is in GBP. So this business is a £2 billion business. And so when somebody sees that, he has a sense of the size of business you have worked for and is able to relate, oh, not bad entirely. And they can relate it to kind of the size of businesses that they deal with in the UK. So, if you don't work for a multinational business and you're doing your CV, it's important to give a sense of what kind of business your experience have come from so that the reviewers can make a sense of the kind of places that you have worked for. But if you work for large businesses already, you work for like a Mondelez or a Nestle or a Shell or Chevron, globally renowned companies, they're everywhere. They are present in the UK. An average UK recruiter would know those names and they'll be able to relate to your experience very quickly. But if you are working in a place that it can be a very large business in Nigeria, but unfortunately in the UK, nobody knows about them, then you need to be able to tell them how important it is without using too many words. So if you work in a GTB, pretty large business, larger than some banks in the UK, but the average UK recruiter does not know who GTB is. In their mind, it is one tiny bank in one corner in Lagos, and that's the way they're going to rate the experience of the person of the CV that they're giving at that point in time. So general point first is that you need to, if you don't work for a multinational and you're doing your CV, you need to find a way of demonstrating the quality of the employers that you have worked with in the past. That's number one. Number two, and I know this is not a CV session, but it's important to focus on two things. Focus on the achievements that you have had in the past in your experience, your individual experience, whether it relates to your technical skills itself, the results you have achieved, or something that can just be the soft skills that you have built together. It can be the fact that you have trained people, you have mentored people to rise from one role to the other as much as possible. You need to, so it's not just a case of just putting your job description. You can use your achievements to do your job description. If you had achievements across the most important aspect of your job description, then you have in a way told your recruiter what your job description is. So if I say in a point to say that I have delivered, I am a tax professional, unfortunately, so most of my examples are going to come from tax. If I say that in the past 2 years, I have delivered tax returns calculations to clients within the set deadlines 100% of the time, I don't need to go and put a job description that says that I prepare tax returns. I've already said it before because I've told them in my achievement. So you can use your achievement to demonstrate your strengths and also to tell the recruiter what your job description has been. And I also say that when you're applying for roles, you want to be able to match your CV. Sorry, I need to get the door now. Hello? I need to get it done.
All right.
I'll be
All
back.
right. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Oh, okay. I don't know if, like you said, it's not a CV session. I think I'll just advise that you take notes as much as you can and build on it. He's answering this question this way based on the question that he has been asked. So I'm not sure he can provide, I don't think he can provide a sample of a CV per se.
And also, I mean, just go online, look for, just go online. I mean, people who do CVs a lot, you will find something really good that you can use.
You can use.
Yeah, there are a lot of examples online, to be honest. And if you want to be very sure, just look for a UK CV and focus on the CV for a purpose. So if you're a tax person, say UK CV, tax manager, something like that. If you're an internal auditor, use that to search for a couple so that you can compare notes. And but more importantly, you want to reflect, because it's hard work to do a CV, to be honest. It's not just about writing stuff. You need to go back and reflect. What did I do in 2022 and blah blah blah, and check. Some things don't strike out as achievement. When you think through them properly, you'll be able to string them. I take time to do my CVs. I mean, spend weekends just to do it really, really properly and get people to look at it, because it's your only chance that you've got. Then I also say that perhaps you don't want to replicate things. So if you've moved from jobs to jobs and the experiences are similar, just focus on the difference in achievements. Don't say the same thing. I prepare financial statements. You can't say it over and over the same places. I mean, if you are doing the same thing in different roles, you want to use the opportunity to say different things about each of those roles. So that's the next thing. Then I'll say you need to begin to connect with people. First set of people you need to connect with are fellow Nigerians that now work in the UK. And I'll tell you why, for two reasons. Is that the average UK employer will pay a referral bonus if you refer someone to join their business and they truly join. And so if you speak to an average Nigerian, they will most likely be willing to help you to join, especially if the opportunity is there. If the opportunity is not there, there's nothing they can do. But if the opportunity is there, they will be more than willing to help you, because they will earn maybe a significant bonus. And in my experience, what I've seen so far, that bonus can be more than what each person earns on a regular month, sometimes 2 months salary. So it's not something they can just shake up like that. So as a first point of call, so if you're an internal auditor, for example, you want to look for Nigerians that are internal auditors that now work in the UK. I'll connect with them. If you're a financial reporting manager, you want to look for people that have your kind of experience in the UK, go to LinkedIn, look for them and connect with them. So I mean, I think that's the first set of people that can really help. The second set would probably be recruiters, because recruiters are in the same place. Recruiters earn a fee when they hire for an employer. So if you go and meet a recruiter, it's like you're taking business to them. So if they like your CV, if they like your profile, then they're willing to talk to you. The only reason they'll turn you down is because they've run through your profile. Oh, it doesn't make sense to me. I just move on. Or perhaps because there's no opportunity. Or maybe there's an opportunity and the employer is not willing to sponsor a visa for somebody coming from abroad. For some of them, they'll just rather recruit from the UK. Other things you can do is, if you do not already work for a big four firm in Nigeria or for a multinational business, what I've seen so far in my experience is to get into one of those places first, build 1 year, 2 years experience first before moving on. Because trust me, many of these employers, like I said before, there's a bias against from our area. The reasons the big four people have an edge is because many of them have had the opportunity to, many UK employees have had the opportunity to play. Because when I was in big firms in Nigeria, I've worked many times with colleagues in the UK. So they have a sense of how competent we are. And so they don't have a problem hiring our people. Yeah. But most other businesses don't have the level of interaction that you've got in the big four firm. And they don't have that level of comfort to enable them to hire from places like this. So in my what I've seen so far, I mean and you see it, I think it's one of the other questions. The fastest route that I've seen for accountants to relocate to the UK is to move through a big four firm.
Wow.
It is by far the fastest route for accountants and financial professionals. But if you are going to the UK through another route, so you're going to do a master's degree, yeah, you're already in the UK. I mean, it's probably easier than coming from Nigeria. But if you're coming from Nigeria, your best bet is to go through a big four firm, except you have some other alternatives that gives you the right to work in the UK. So if you've got some alternative ways of getting your right to work in the UK, then maybe you don't need the big four firm. But if you are just wanting to apply for a job and all that, the best bet is to go through a firm. Yeah.
Okay. Funny enough, I have that question as the next question. Like, we noticed that majority of Nigerians who have traveled, not Nigerians, sorry, accountants and finance professionals who have traveled to the UK and practice there actually work with the big four. So what's the hope for others and the people that do not work with the big four in Nigeria already?
Yeah, so I'm going to be very frank with you. It's not easy. In fact, I am yet to meet anyone that does not have big four experience and have moved directly from Nigeria to go and work in the UK in finance, in accounting. And I've met many people. If I begin to count, I probably have met about 100 people that have moved.
Wow.
Many people. People that have had previous big four experience, they have moved on from big four to something else, but still more, they were able to still rely on their big four experience. Because for these people, for them, it's the sign of comfort. Okay, I've got a sense. I mean, it's like you going to go and buy a shirt in the boutique. You don't know the brand. You only know Polo, you know Tommy. So you know Polo is good. You know Tommy is good. But you hear a brand, Shane. What's this? I'm not sure. I beg, let me just go and buy the one that I know. It doesn't mean that one is not good. So it doesn't mean you are not competent. That does not what it means. It means these guys are not certain. They don't want to rely on interviews because interviews is probably not the best way to assess how competent someone is. Yeah, because the real employers, when they hire for talents, you're either relying on some referrals or relying on where the person has worked in the past. Okay, this person has to be good. So I just want to use the interview to get. But if you don't know the person at all, it'll be really, really tough to just rely on interviews. And that's the way these guys are reason. And that's the same. The second reason is that the big four firms, they're the biggest recruiters. They have the space. They have the capacity to hire. Many other companies will not hire that many people in one go. It's not going to happen. And it's just normal to, you already work in the big four in Nigeria. Yes, come and work for us. And even at that, in many cases, they will in many cases, not in all, in many cases, they will step the role down. So somebody's already manager, you join as a senior associate, you're manager, you join as an assistant manager. It can typically happen because again, there's that bias there. It won't happen for people coming from the US, for example, in the UK. No, it won't happen. Even though the culture is a bit different, but it won't happen. Because it's an advanced economy, they believe the exposure is there. And so there's nothing that they're losing that way. So that's the reality, that's the fact. If you've got some other route to join, so for example, for people who are married and they've got spouses that have gotten jobs in the UK, so maybe their spouses are doctors, nurses, or maybe teachers more recently, and they have gotten jobs in the UK, and they can then get a dependent visa to be able to move in. Yes, perhaps that's one an option. Another one is to go into study, but study is pretty expensive. I mean, in the UK, because once you have a right to work, it's then a lot easier because the employer is not thinking of sponsoring you again, sponsoring a visa. Sponsoring a visa is cheap. The maximum cost really is about £200, not a lot. Yeah, but they're just not sure. Do I really want to go? If I can find somebody in London, why do I want to go to Lagos to go and find someone? That's the thought process. So you need to be able to demonstrate, wow, that I've got more than enough. So maybe other things you can do is to pretty much active on LinkedIn, but beyond being active, you need to have a pool of connections already in the UK that you want to work within your space. So you are a financial analyst, for example, you need to have connected with a lot of financial analysts in the UK, Nigerians and non-Nigerians, so that when you are beginning to show your activity, these are the people seeing it, not people in Lagos and Abuja, because you don't need these ones to see you. What you want is people in the UK seeing you. So you need to connect with them, not just doing your own post, but also reacting with their post. Perhaps you're able to build some form of connections. It won't happen quickly. So you don't connect with somebody today, react with their post tomorrow, and next tomorrow you are going into their inbox. No, it doesn't work that way. It needs to get to a point where, the way I assess online relationship is that I connect with you, I react to your post, you react to mine, and to a point where when the person begins to react back to your post, if it happens a few more times, it means there's some form of relationship. And you can then go ahead to ask for something. But you don't connect today, like the post tomorrow, and next month say, I want to apply for a job. I have VCC, I have VCC. No, it doesn't work that way. They'll just turn you down.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank God you mentioned ACCA, ECA, and the next question is: are there certain certifications needed to be well positioned to work in the UK?
Yeah, generally I'll say experience trumps certifications. What I've seen so far.
Okay.
I'll give my example. The only certification I have in this world is ICANN. ECA. Nothing else. Apart from my degree in agriculture and I've got ICANN, I have no other certification in this whole world.
Wow, Najim, sorry, please. You're using ICANN to be a tax practitioner in UK. That's amazing.
And there are many other people like that. It's not an issue at all. So what I've seen, experience is far more important than your certifications. But again, I will also say that, because I worked in a big 4 firm, experience was my biggest strength. And so it is what that mattered most to me. And once I put that forth to the employer, they didn't care what certification I had. They were happy with experience. But if your experience is not strong enough, so for example, if you do not work for a global firm already, or a multinational that is renowned even within the UK, your experience may not be your biggest strength. Yes, it will be useful, but it may not be your biggest strength. Your other source of strength will come from your certifications. So for people who don't have the kind of experience some of us are fortunate to have, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have better experience. We're just lucky. Some people outside the big four even earn far more than some of us earn. Yeah. But it's about perceptions. What these people think is that the big 4% is generally more competent. That's the way they think. And so you need to present yourself in a way that makes yourself acceptable. So I'll say for people who don't have this kind of global experiences, then it's perhaps more important to get. So for example, if you just have your ICANN, you want to go and get a UK accounting certification. So you say ACCA, you see ICAEW. In my experience, what I've seen so far, I would think your ICAEW makes more sense. One is faster, it's cheaper if you already have ICANN. Because for you to get your ICAEW, you're not writing exams again. Okay, you had an exam, but it's called examination of experience, and I know many of us will know about that already. So you've got specific questions. Those questions don't change from year to year, and you will answer those questions. You take your time. You have forever to be able to write it. There are submission timelines twice a year. Once you already submit it, it's the same question. It never changes. It's about your experience. And once you answer those questions and you submit and you pass, you get your ACE, the UK ACE, ICAEW. And what I've seen so far, the ICAEW is by far more popular in the UK than ACCA. The average British holds an ICAEW or the Scottish version ICAS. ACC is a lot more common with immigrants, the Pakistanis, the Indians, the Nigerians, who are the ones that do the ACCA. The average British doesn't do it. So, but what I'm saying is that because you don't have time, you don't want to be spending too much time trying to go and write ACCA if you have not started already. Your ICAEW, if you're ready now by November, November, December, you make your submissions, and January you will get your certification. It can't be that quick for ACC. But if you already have ACC, then it's fine. I don't think you should do anything else. If you have ACC already, it's fine. You don't need to do something. And that's why if you're a general accountant, you are a tax professional, auditor, anything else, I think that's pretty much what you need. If your specialty is a bit different, and you know that there is a globally recognized certification in that your discipline, you should try to get it. to the extent that it is recognized in the UK. I don't know everything. I don't know them because I've only practiced tax all my life. And I know in tax, if you have a chartered accounting qualification, it is sufficient to be able to, you don't need anything else to be able to move. If you go and get a tax qualification in the UK without having a UK tax experience, it's perhaps not useful, to be honest. And it will be difficult to pass it because it's a lot more complex. I mean, you won't just relate to it, to be honest. So I'll say if you're a tax person, for example, don't bother doing you can do the ACC and take the tax papers, but don't go and do the full tax certifications. It's too difficult. And it's especially difficult if you do not have the real life experience. You will study, for example, I was trying to study for it before I moved, study, it would just did not make sense to me. But now I'm trying to study for it. It's a lot easier now because I've got some experience now. It's easier to study, it's easier to read and pass. And so I'm saying that the time you want to invest in going and writing an exam that may not be useful to you, you can spend that time in doing some other things that I'll talk about that will project you a lot better. Spend that more time to connect on LinkedIn, to write articles in your specialty to demonstrate your experience. Publish in ACC if you can. Publish in journals that the average accountant in the UK will read. And because if your papers are accepted in those places, it means that, yeah, you're writing something that is globally acceptable. That can then match with the CV and say, oh, even though you don't work with the KPMG, yes, this experience is good. I mean, for ICEW to accept the article to publish is fine. So you need to go and find those journals in your area and say, this is what is most important in the UK, and find a way of getting your articles in. Connect with people in your area on LinkedIn in the UK. Write in their space, not just write. Sometimes you may not even be writing, you may not be posting, but we act with what they post regularly. That can just be enough. And not just write for the purpose of reacting. Say something that makes sense. Oh, this is what you think about. That's what you think about it. Before you know it, you realize that many people just know your name within that little space. And at some point, you can begin to ask to say, wow, okay, maybe at some point somebody posts a role and then go to their book. Can I apply for this role? I know I don't have UK experience, but I've got XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And I think I can do. Can you give me a shot? You never can tell. You just never can tell. Just never can tell. The easiest way, which is perhaps expensive, is to find your way to move in the UK. Go and do a degree. Go with a spouse that already has the potential to get a job in the UK. So if you marry all those people, for example, people who are doctors and nurses, it's a lot more easier for them to get in. So if you have those ones as a spouse, it's probably easy. But if you don't have any of those, and I assume many of us are in those shoes, I mean, your next best is to join a big four firm. If you cannot, then you need to be very prolific. You need to interact a lot more often with these people on a regular basis, connect with recruiters a lot, and just continue to try. I would say in my case, I probably made more than 400 applications, even though I worked with the big four firm. Because around the time I joined, it wasn't common for tax professionals to move into the UK. Before I joined, it was a lot common for auditors. Auditors were the ones moving. Tax guys were not moving because for them, the laws were completely different. So it took a lot of effort. So I'll say that while I was trying, I passed on the same issues with people who don't have big four experience. Because the only reason why tax became popular was a reaction post-Brexit. When Brexit happened, a lot of Europeans who did not have some form of permanent residence in the UK had to leave. And so there was a huge gap. There was a huge, not just in the big four firms, in the other employer firms. Regular companies were then having to outsource their finance functions to the big four firms. So they had less people to work and they now had more work to do. And the economy became slightly bigger during that period. So they had to hire from abroad. They didn't have a choice. And so they had to hire tax people from abroad. That was what created the opportunity for us. Yes. Until it gets to a point where the big four people in Nigeria cannot even provide people again. They've swept the place completely. Perhaps they'll begin to look at some other areas. Perhaps we'll look at some of the.
Okay. Kemi, please, before you say something, even the big four in Nigeria they're experiencing droughts. So I think it's happening. Yeah, there's a drought for skillful talent, and not just even the big four. Basically, in a lot of organizations, we have, even in our consulting firm, we have positions we've been trying to fill, and it has been very challenging to get people with the right experience that are skillful. So I think it's beginning to appear like a global pandemic, in my own opinion, whereby we have less skillful people. But I will always say this to finance professionals, that they should see it as an opportunity. The people that are not yet at that level, this is the best time for you to, work on your skill, sharpen your skill, be better at what you do, because um, there are a lot of jobs out there, truth be told. We don't just have the right candidates to fill it. And fantastic, you've done a fantastic job. I was going to ask you how you were able to join the Big Four, knowing that you're a tax professional, because I did UK tax. Funny enough, I did UK tax before I did Nigerian tax.
Oh,
And I
really?
remember when I was writing UK tax, yes, what I tell people is that I used to tell people that the only thing they don't tax in UK is the hair that we breathe. If that's possible, I'm sure that UK tax would have created a tax for it. Like, it was so complex, a rewarding experience for me, because it just helped to broaden my knowledge. So kudos to you, and for your colleagues also, that have paved the way for tax professionals to be able to have an opportunity, in the international space. Well done. And by the way, good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
All right, thank you very much. So I want to take some questions that have been sent in before I continue with mine, so it doesn't pile up. I also want to seize this opportunity to say, like I mentioned, I've seen questions about Canada. We'll be dealing with Canada in another session, not this one. This one is focused on UK, on those going to the UK, working and practicing in the UK. Okay, so we have some in the Q&A. Someone is saying, for someone with tax experience in Nigeria, looking to study abroad, since the tax laws are different, how possible is that?
Okay, so I'll say the tax laws are different, but the principles are the same. They can be a lot more complex, but the principles are exactly the same. So, for example, if you take corporate tax, everywhere in the world, when you're calculating your corporate tax, you're starting from your profit before tax. You're adjusting something. Some expenses are not deductible, some income are not taxable. You've got something called capital allowances or tax depreciations. The rate can be different, the underlying rules can be, but the principles are a lot the same. And I'll say that, and I'll give you pretty much evidence. It's easier for a Nigerian tax person to learn UK tax than maybe a Nigerian auditor. And what that says to you is that the only reason it's easier is because the principles are the same. If it was completely different, then it would have been as easy for an auditor and a Nigerian tax professional to learn UK tax. It will be equally easy for both of them, but it's not equally easy because there are a lot of things you already know in Nigerian tax. Because mind you, the foundation, the first set of Nigerian tax laws were clearly borrowed from the UK, for all Commonwealth countries. So our tax law came from the same source. It's just that theirs have moved a lot faster than ours, and there's still a lot of similarities. So your experience as a tax professional here will continue to be useful, no doubt about it. And why it will be useful is that we are learning something new. Oh, okay, this is how you guys do it in the UK. You can always be, okay, this is how we do it in Nigeria. And it's not too bad, to be honest. It's not too bad. The experience will always be useful. I think what they typically want to see is does this person have the tendency, the capacity to be able to learn new things and apply it very quickly? Can they focus on it? So, for example, if you were somebody in Nigeria that used to memorize the rules, didn't understand the principles behind each of those rules, it can be difficult for the person to cope in Nigeria. But if you were very clear about why did the law ask us to do this, what are the principles behind each of these provisions, then it will be very easy to settle it in the UK. So, for example, I've got a couple of audit guys in the UK, people born and bred in the UK, always work in the UK, that chose to switch to tax. They've been doing tax 2-3 years before I moved to the UK. But they still come to me to talk to me about it because the principle are still not very firm in their minds. The same it has been because I have done tax for a lot more period. And there are some areas in tax that are quite universal, and which is what I'm focusing on. For example, I'm doing tax accounting, which is about your deferred tax, your accounting standard that relates to tax. And so I need minimal UK experience. What I need a lot more is the accounting standards, which are pretty much the same. IFRS in Nigeria, IFRS in the UK. And so the point is that your experiences will always be very useful. And I'll tell you that the technical bit of our work is perhaps like 50-60% of what we need to do. There are many other things that will be very useful. Your ability to manage a team, to coach people, to give instructions, to manage the client, build relationships to clients, sell services to clients, train people. So there are a lot more things that has nothing to do with the technical bit of work. And the general experience will become useful. I mean, I see people, there's a particular program that we're doing EY in the UK here. Mind you, when I speak on this program, I'm speaking for myself. I don't speak on behalf of my employer. I mean, that program is seeks to hire people who have general accounting experience, nothing to do with tax, nothing to do with anything around, whether Nigeria and the UK. And there's then a conversion course that they teach to help them to settle it. So the point I'm trying to make is that even if you don't have the specific experiences, the general experience over the couple of years can become very, very useful. So what you need to do is to, each time you're trying to apply for a role, you need to find how much match you can get. So what experience do you have that matches what's on the job description that they're looking for? And how do you want to project those areas pretty much on your CV very strongly so that it makes sense to the employer?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. We take the next one via the chat. Someone is asking what data analytics skills such as SQL, Python, Tableau, Power BI will give an accountant need to have a higher chance of employability if you don't have much experience?
So I have a live case. I've got a mentee who, we were together at Deloitte and he wanted to do data analytics in the UK. And so he started taking these courses. All these courses you mentioned here, I imagine he took all of them. Yes, SQL, Python, maybe Tableau is the only one he didn't take. And I took a few more. And those were the courses that he took. So he started applying for roles, he did not get a role, to be honest. But after he moved to the UK, I think his wife moved to go and do masters in the UK. He moved to the UK, then started applying again. He got interviews. He now works with Deloitte in the UK, doing tax data analytics. And what gave him a strong edge? So I'll say, yes, the Deloitte experience helped, but this certification became because he had to do a case study, real life case study. There's a problem there and he's going to resolve them with this, whatever their names. So I don't know how to use it, but I know these names, how to use it. So trust me, these are very useful. But I'll say what I've seen so far, the certifications alone do not count. So you need to be able to demonstrate how you have used it on real life jobs. So this is my mentee, didn't have the opportunity to use it on live. But what he had done was to be able to create real life projects on his own. Real life project on its own, work volunteering for organizations within Nigeria. They've got the problem, use these tools to be able to solve them. And those are the kind of extra things they put on the CV to say, yes, I've not done data analytics in my full-time job, but I've used these skills to solve real life problems that people solve at work. And I put that back to the CV. So perhaps I think this has helped. So I'll say, don't just take a certification alone. Find a way of using it. Use it at work if you can. If you cannot, find a way of doing some volunteering for some people on the side to say, yes, I can do this for you. Don't pay me, just let me do it. I just want to be able to demonstrate that I've got this experience. And I think, and I'm not sure, but so I think there's some website that have got some live data. If you're a data analytics person, you probably know about this already, where you can just pull those data and use your knowledge around it and to be able to solve those real life problems. You're not solving it for anybody per se. You're just pulling some real life data and say, this is what I can do with this data. And perhaps that's one way of you demonstrating that, yes, I can use my skills to be able to solve a real life. I didn't solve it for a real life employer, but it's a real life problem. And I've used my skills to solve. That's what an employer wants to see. They don't want to see that you've got this certification, that you have used it before. Because for them, the best evidence of capacity is that you have done it before. It's not that I can. Have you done it before? It's by the past, the best predictor of the future. And so when you're speaking to an employer, you want to explain, you want to evidence how you have everything you say you can do. How have you done it before? if your statement is full of I can, I will, I will be able to, it's not going to work. It's going to be about what you've done in the past. So yeah, good to get a certification, but find a way of using it in a way and let it show that you can use it.
Okay. I don't know if Sister has something to add to that, if she wants to say something in addition to that question.
I think Nudging did a fine job with his response. And it's what I've always said before. It's not about the certificate. It's more what can you do with it. And that's what every employer wants, whether in Nigeria or in UK or in Canada. It's very important that you can demonstrate whatever knowledge you've acquired. So I know that also, I know there's a big market at the moment for data analysts. All of a sudden, I think organizations are having the kind of data that they didn't used to have before with the advent of the different software we have right now, the internet and the likes. So yes, I think I know that some accountants also find it, more interesting to toe the data line. And I think if you put everything Nojim has said to use, you must be able to practicalize what you know. And you must be able to demonstrate how you can add value to any organization with that skill or knowledge that you have. That's very, very key and important.
Let me mention something else now. So I know, so there's this route that some set of people are able to use to get into the UK, and it's called the Global Talent Visa.
Talents. Oh, yes. Global Talent Visa.
And I know that tech people use it a lot. So, and I imagine that data analytics falls within talent. So you want to go and check the Global Talent Visa, see whether you have what it takes to be able to apply. If you know you don't have, there's no point trying to waste your time. It won't work. I've got a couple of people that did it, but they are not tech people, they're artists, and they use it and I got them. And it's perhaps the best way to get into the UK because it's perhaps the most useful visa because you can do anything. You can apply for anything. You can go to school. You can set up a company. You can start a business.
Yeah,
and it's the fastest route to permanent residency. 3 years, 4 years, you're permanent resident in the UK. So, so give that a shot. Go and check it. See whether you meet the conditions, or see whether you can do a few months to meet in the next 1 year or 2 years. It's by far the best route to get in. It doesn't come with a job, but if you get the visa, you come into the UK, you can do almost anything. Maybe the only thing you can do is to contest for elections. Yeah, that's probably
See, now that you mentioned that, I don't even know why I forgot. I actually know of someone that got the Global Talent Visa. The person is right now in UK, and the person works as a data analyst. So that was the route. Right. In fact, I was part of the process. I remember reviewing the person's essays. Nice. They're always lengthy and very technical. Always lengthy and technical, but you see, if you can put in the work, you get the reward. And at the moment, as I said, he has settled in properly, and is working as a data analyst for one of the Fortune 500 companies there in UK. So thank you for mentioning that. I actually forgot.
Okay. So we take one other question, and this is Dr. Hamza, and he said, what about those with academic certifications like PhD finance?
Yeah, so I think there's some reasonable space within academics in the UK. And I think academics have an edge. When I say edge is because academics typically publish. So what I'll say to someone like you is to be able to find a way of publishing your papers within the reliable UK accounting journals, where I mean the kind of journals the top academics and accountants will read. I imagine that if you put your papers in, you just, it's one way of then, it's easy for you to apply for roles, to be able to say, this is my CV, this is what I've done. More importantly is because I know there are many Nigerian accounting academics in the UK, many of them. I don't know any person, but I see them very often on LinkedIn and all that. There are many of them, Nigerians or Ghanaians, fellow Africans. You want to be able to begin to connect with those people and have conversations with them. Yes, generally, academics in the UK doesn't pay as well as corporates, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, like, I'll say that except the person on the role is conducting a research that is funded by a large organization, what a professor will earn is perhaps not as high as what a senior manager will earn with a big four firm. But trust me, it's a lot better than what a typical academics will earn in the UK. So I'll say connect with your colleagues in the UK. Yeah, there are many of them, especially the Nigerians. There are far many people that you can connect with. Then to get your papers into those places. Sometimes it can be difficult to determine what you want to write. Do you want to be writing about just issues that impact Nigeria or something that's got some cross-national impact? Do you want to co-author an article with co-author a research work with people already in the UK? So if you've got ideas, connect with and say, yes, I've got this work I want to do, but I'd like to do it together with somebody already in the UK. If you speak with a couple of people with your proposal, you get the aim. So it means, one, you're doing two things. You're building relationships. And the second thing is that you are putting yourself out there. You are creating some extra visibility for yourself. And I know that for researchers, for academics, one thing that you people use a lot to be able to demonstrate competence is your works, what works you have done in the past. That's one big thing that I hear people in that space use a lot. So I would think that you perhaps have an edge than the regular accountant. I think, in my view, I think you have that edge a lot. Yeah, I mean, there are many Nigerians there. I mean, just think of, you're a researcher already, you know the kind of issues that you want to write about. The other thing is also, I'm also aware that many universities have funded research work. And so when they want to hire, they're looking for people whose research focus is around their own research focus too. Again, I don't know research work in accounting. I'm not a researcher in accounting, but you perhaps know best. And I know that each department of accounting has, you know, have a research grant. This is what we're focusing on the next 10 years, 5 years. And so when they're hiring, when they're recruiting PhD candidates, or they're recruiting lecturers, researchers, they want people that can support that objective, that goal. So you want to focus on, do you want to look for the organizations, universities that they have similar research goals with what your own interests are? Or do you want to begin to write things that ties to what the popular universities in the UK will want to focus on? So it's about trying to create what I will call goal congruence. Are your own goals, research goals, are they similar to the research goals of many of these universities? If they are similar, and you can then demonstrate how they're similar, it's perhaps going to be easy to get in. But I know that there is a huge pool of Nigerians in the academic space, especially in accounting. So you need to go and find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, look for those journals, begin to write with them, begin to co-author articles with them. If you can, attend attend conferences in the UK. Again, there are a lot of mushroom conferences in the UK. There are a lot of mushroom journals in the UK. You don't want to go and publish in those ones. I know there's a way they rate all these journals. I can't remember what they had. I mean, there was a time I had it, maybe Scopus or whatever it is, where they rate. So you know the high-ranking journals. Those are the places where you should get your work into. So I mean, some people are just doing journals to just make money. Some people are just doing exhibitions, conferences, because they just want to collect registration fees. They are not high profile. So the fact that it's in the UK does not mean it's high profile. So you want to find the proper places and then go and do stuff in those places. And in no time you get in. So I think you have a much more easier route to get in than the average accountant. You just need to put the extra work and you'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have more questions pouring in. So I'm going to ask 3 more questions, and then we have some questions for Mrs. Toyin, especially for those that are in Nigeria and want to secure global jobs. So we have some questions that she's more positioned to attend to. So I will ask you some questions now before we move over. So if you have questions, please keep them coming as fast as you can. We want to be very fast with it so we don't take so much time. Are there any specific cultural or business etiquette differences between Nigeria and UK that Nigerian finance professionals should be aware of?
Oh, yes, I think there are a couple of them. So what I've seen, again, you might speak with somebody else and the experience can be different. So I would focus what I've seen and what people around me have also seen, because I get to talk to a lot of people, is that people can be very conservative at work. And so when people are at work, they are really at work. I know the average Nigerian workplace, we chat a lot, we just have work, house, family, and everything. Men in this place, they just come into their desks, start working, hello, and they start working. You rarely see people touch their phones, their devices. Rarely. Maybe after 3 hours, they look at WhatsApp for 30 seconds and put it back off and continue working.
No.
So you can get to, so I'll give you my own life case. In Nigeria, I found it much more convenient to work at home than at work because of distraction at work. But here the reverse is the case. At work, I focus, so I prefer to go to the office to go and do my work. No distraction. I'm in a happy place. That's one thing. Number two is that people tend to keep to themselves a lot. So you don't hear people asking about, what's your salary? What's the salary of the next level? When are they doing promotions? How much do you think bonus is going to be? Doesn't happen here. I mean, so in Nigeria, I knew what the next, maybe not the exact week, but I knew what the next grade is, the lower grades. I knew what my next salary is going to be when I'm moving, but you have no clue. You only know it yourself. I mean, and in a big firm, I think in many places, we always have what you call like a performance manager or like a coach. So somebody who watches your performance, your growth, and helps you get to the next level. Even that person has no clue what I earn in the UK.
Wow.
They've got no idea. So people keep things around money to themselves, around promotion, they keep it to themselves. They just allow the formal process take its course. And do it that way. The other thing is that if you then want to hear office gists, if you want to know what's going on, because you will not know in the office, trust me, you will not know. It's by going out a lot with guys to the pub. I mean, what they will call bar in Nigeria, they call it pub in the UK. They've got a very terrible drinking culture here, and it's a culture, it's a lifestyle. Unfortunately, I don't drink, but it's a lifestyle here. So the only place where you get to hear stuff, and you need to really hear what's going on. Otherwise, you just be working, and maybe the result will not be coming out. Yeah. So going to the pub, if you don't even drink, I think you should find some time to just go out with them. They are doing some events. Evening, we're just going out. Find time to go. They're going on coffee breaks. So sometimes even in the office, okay, can we just go and have a cup of coffee? Go. A few things will drop. You will hear a few things. You will know the best people to work with. Okay, these are the kinds of people that when you work, you will shine a lot faster. When you work with people, you will still shine, but it will take a lot more time. You won't know on the face of it. So that's always say, do you want to have a cup of coffee? Even if you don't like coffee, please go and have coffee. If there are evening events, I don't say you should go for it, but find time to go for some of these things. Don't say you're saving money. I don't have time to go. Go, because that's where you begin to understand people a lot more. They will be a lot free, They will, because once they have one or two bottles, one or two glasses, maybe they lose their mind, but they speak a lot more. You hear things, you know how to cope a lot better, how to get the best out of the system. And it's not just where I work. I know there's a terrible drinking culture in the UK. And it's not Fridays. In Nigeria, people go to club on Fridays. Here it is, they go on Monday, Tuesday, every day of the week they go. So they can put it any day. Friday is a bit special, but they treat every day. So I'll say that's one thing. Because the thing is that back in Nigeria, you've built social relationships, connections over the years. But you knew in the UK, because the way to be successful is not just about what you know how to do. It's also about the people you know and what you know about people. If you don't know people, you will not get the best out of the system. And so you need to spend a lot more time to build your relationship. You don't build relationships with people at work. No, what kind of relationship you build at work? You can't build that. It's about going out with people, having interaction with people, and hopefully you build some decent relationship with time. And that's where you can get the best out of history. It's not just about doing quality work. No. Because when you know people a lot better outside work, you understand the nuances to be able to get the best out of it. You know what makes them happy. You know what to avoid about them. So I'll say, if you ever plan to come, if you ever get into the UK, and I'll say for anybody coming to Nigeria who has never been to Nigeria before, you need to do the same thing. You need to socialize with the people and know how to get things out of the system. Then I'll say, you got something to say?
That's very interesting, no, Jim. Ooh, how are you coping? Because I know that's a lot of adjustment on your own part.
Yeah, so I don't do it a lot. So, for example, I mean, many people, they're also very respectful people here. So they know you don't drink, so they're not going to drink. Yeah, so they're not going to. And once in a while, they'll say that we're going to a place where we won't have drinks. We'll just go to a regular restaurant, we'll just eat and all that. So they're very respectful people, to be honest. So, for example, I don't eat pork. And when we go out, they say, no, just give me vegetarian. So they're very respectful people. I mean, they know your differences, they will
That's
respect
good.
but you can't keep to yourself all alone.
Yeah.
And just be doing your work. It's not going to. It's go out with people. You need to interact with people.
Actually, you will not succeed like that anywhere in the world, whether in Nigeria or
or
UK
elsewhere,
or in Sierra Leone or in Liberia. You will not succeed anywhere.
So you need to learn
like that.
I mean, for me, the proof, the way I test my relationships in the UK here, is about how often my phone rings from calls in the UK. In the first few months, the only calls that comes into my phone are from my people in Nigeria, or my people, or my fellow Nigerians in the UK. So nobody else calls me. But that's changing a bit, and I have a way of tracking it. Okay, I want to be able to get to at least 1 or 2 calls per day in my first 1 week. I mean, it means that people don't know me. It's not just email conversation. They'll just pick, what are you doing? What are you doing this weekend? Until it gets to that point, you have not built any relationship. Perhaps, and they've not said it, but if you look through if you try to listen to words that are not being said, when people are hired from outside the UK, they're just hired to come and do work because they have capacity issues. Just come and do our work and move on. More like a hiring laborers. But you need to put yourself a step ahead. You are not coming here as just to fill in their capacity gap. You are trying to come. You're coming here to grow. So if people don't speak to you outside work,
something is
off. Just be like they're just using it to just do their work and moving on. They don't think you're doing that.
So you okay, please tell me. Let's take a question from the YouTube page. We have a question on the YouTube page. I'm not sure you have access to it, so let me just read the question out. And I know that there are many questions as well. So Najim, please, let's manage our time.
It's okay.
There's a lot of questions. So we have a question from YouTube. Please, what is the chance of getting an accounting job in the UK for someone that wants to join his wife in the UK as a dependent? I have ACA, that's ICANN, and working on CIMA presently.
Oh, okay. So this person sounds like he already has like a dependent visa to be able to work in the UK, or he can get it if he wants it. Okay, so once you're in, your chance, I would say, has improved significantly from staying just in Nigeria. In fact, once you have your visa, you have a UK address, without living here, your chance has improved significantly. Because you're telling the recruiter that I have a right to work in the UK, so I don't need somebody to sponsor me. So what you need to do at that point is to begin to apply for the jobs right away. Begin to apply for the jobs and put clearly that you're in the UK. It's not as easy for somebody who has a UK experience, but it's by far better than not having a UK residence. So what you need to do is to just begin to apply for the job and make it clear on your CV that you're in the UK and you have a UK visa to enable you to work, or like a right to work in the UK, and begin to apply. For me, the fastest, use LinkedIn a lot. LinkedIn jobs. A lot. Then also use some people post jobs without putting it on LinkedIn jobs. They just post it. So you need to know the keywords, financial reporting jobs, London, UK, and search it. Somebody just posted it and begin to search. Connect with recruiters. Your recruiters are the best bets. Because the recruiters, they earn a fee for every referral. For every person that they hire, they earn a significant, and it's not small. Many of them will earn like maybe 20%, 30% of your first annual income. It doesn't take away from yours, but that's your income, which is good money for them, good business for them. So connect with them. If there's no space, they'll tell you that there's no space. So you have a huge chance. It's a lot of work, to be honest. It's not going to come right away, but you need to search very often, make it a daily affair, because that's your primary job. I imagine that you need to sustain. You may be doing some side jobs to keep body and soul together. But don't go and spend too much time trying to do that to be able to pay your bills. Spend some decent time on a daily basis to apply for jobs. Don't make it frustrating. If it means applying for 5 jobs every day, please do it. That's the only way it's going to happen. And if you're already in the UK, then speak to people. Go to events. Join ICANN in the UK. Because a lot of Nigerians have been here for many years, 20 years, 30 years, doing very well. Join them, speak to them about opportunities. Join ICAEW, attend events where you find accountants. Talk about it. So there's no job on the table, but there are jobs everywhere. There are biases against people from our area, but you need to do it a lot more. You may be lucky, and you will be lucky because you will get it. Because some people are trying to get it. I know somebody who got a job because of diversity reasons. That employer was trying to fill 3 quotas. they didn't have enough females, so they wanted to get a female in. They didn't have enough
Okay.
blacks, they wanted to get a black in. They didn't have enough Muslims, they wanted to get a Muslim in. This person was black, female,
Wow.
Muslim. And that was the edge that she got to be able to get the job. That was the edge that she got. So sometimes some people are just looking for blacks to be able to get in. So if you, the more you apply, the more chances that are created. So you never can be tired. I've done 20, never. Can't be tired. You continue to do it. You continue. And you will get, if you put in the right effort, maybe 3 months, 6 months, you get something. But you can't be tired. You can't settle for some side job just to be paying bills. No, because that will not take you anywhere for the long time. You need to put that effort. Don't spend time doing certificate. You already have ICANN. That's okay. Go and do ICE job. You don't spend time doing exams, spend your money. Spend that time to look for a job. And you'll find the job.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Kemi, I guess you have your questions now.
Thank you. So we still have some more questions and our time is running. To Mr. Nojim, let me quickly say, if you have questions about getting global opportunities or remote jobs in Nigeria, you can also ask. You can start sending those questions right now. If you have, you can use the link I shared earlier, or you can use the Q&A to ask your question. Someone is asking, do we have something like a community of Nigerian accountants in the UK? If yes, how do one join to enable one get access to valuable information on financial jobs and other relevant information?
Okay. What I know that we have is the UK's districts of ICANN. My assumption is that this is for ICANN members already in the UK. I mean, I can just send a message to their chairman just so he can find. But my understanding is that it's for people. If there's a chance that people outside the UK can join, I mean, then I will just come back to Tony and send a message that I think this can happen. But I doubt it, to be honest. But outside this, I don't think there's any other forum.
No.
There may be, and I just don't know about it, but I don't think it. But if there is, I should have known by now because I've tried looking for it. So I think it's just ICANN UK district.
Okay.
But like I said, we'll connect with Nigerian accountants on LinkedIn. Connect. Ask questions, ask for help. Yeah, you will find something at some point.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Someone is saying for a young graduate, what advice do you have, especially for someone gunning for a financial analyst role? What should the person start doing? And what typical route would you recommend for such graduates in a bid to land a financial analyst role in the UK?
I mean, so young graduate, fresh out of school, no experience. I'll say go and join a big 4 firm in Nigeria.
Okay.
You want to join the advisory units, so financial advisory, join them. Begin to take your certification very seriously, build a couple of years of experience, and begin to move. I don't think anyone will hire a fresh grad from Nigeria to come to the UK.
No.
I don't see how that's going to happen. If you find your way to the UK, you have the right to work. That's something different. But from Nigeria, I don't see that happen. So I don't think that's where you are now. If you can find your way to the UK with the right to work, yes, it's fine. But if you cannot find, don't waste time applying for a job. Apply for a big 4 job in Nigeria here. If you do well enough, you'll get in and build your experience for a few years and then find your way over. Okay. And do your certifications. Take them because you have a lot more time to do your certifications now. Once you begin to get more senior, the time won't be there anymore.
Very true.
Okay, the person is saying, okay, you've answered that. How can someone in Nigeria looking to work in the UK evaluate the pay, considering the bills in order not to be worse off than probably what you are or what you were in Nigeria, sort of?
Yeah, okay, so the UK environment is a lot more open. So, and I'll say you do 2 checks. Number 1 is that many recruiting firms publish like a salary survey in every. For example, I have the one for tax. I got it. Last week they just released the one for 2023, and they've done some real life survey with actual tax professionals in the UK and say this is the average pay for tax director, tax manager, tax associates, and all that in this kind of organizations. So wherever your discipline, there will be one survey that gives you a sense of how much they pay on that level. 2 is that most roles will publish their pay to say this is the budget for the role. So this is where you're applying for this much, that much. That's step 1. Step 2 is to be able to then assess how much sense does it make to you. So you want to be able to, if you know where the job is, then perhaps you're going to live in that area. If you go online, you can, your biggest, I would say that if that pay is double of your rent, and it should be fine. So you go to the popular renting websites, rightmove.co.uk, zoopla.co.uk, wherever the job is, put that location there to search for apartments that you like. Is it a 1-bedroom flat or a 2-bedroom flat or a 4-bedroom house? Look for it. Check what the average price is, multiply it by 2. If your pay comes to about that amount, then you should generally be fine. I would say that sometimes you may need to make a sacrifice if you want to come in terms of pay. It may not be excellent in the first instance, but trust me, after you come in, after you have 1 week experience, the jobs will continue to flow. In my own case, I'll say that every week, at least 2 recruiters reach out to me since I moved to the UK. Every week. I've just said I'm not ready to make a move now. Every week. So just come in. So I'm not saying you're going to take something that's terribly bad, but if you take something that's good enough just to take care of the bills, yeah, like I said, 2 times your rent is a good way to start. It's not bad, to be honest. Yeah. And once you then get in, it's then a lot easier to move up. It's a lot easier, by far easier to move if you want to move.
Okay.
So that's
Thank
all I'll
you.
say. Yeah.
All right. So someone is saying, is there a difference between UK Big Four job gotten through a recruitment agent and that gotten directly by applying through the Big Four sites?
It's not different. It's the same. For example, I came in through a recruiter, but I explained something else. I came to a recruiter. So what the recruiter does is that the recruiter has a direct contract with the firm, and their point of contact are the partners in the firm. So they are speaking to a particular partner. And so once they get your CV and they're speaking to the partner and they like it, they then send you like a formal way to apply. And that doesn't change anything. You're just doing that to be able to schedule yourself for a CV for an interview, and you get an interview and you move. So don't change anything. Well, yeah, but there's some other routes. And I don't think it's very popular in the UK. I think it's more popular to the US, where people work for, they don't work for the Big Four firms directly. They work for like an outsourcing firm. So sometimes the Big Four firms outsource their jobs to a smaller firm. So I know some firms, I can't remember the names now. If I remember, I'll say it, but it's very common in the US. So you work for that firm. That firm's clients are the Big Four firms. So there's an audit to do. The Big Four does not have capacity. They send it to that firm to supply them with people to just do the job, and they do it. So you work for that firm, but in reality, the work you're doing is maybe a KPMG job or a BDO job or stuff like that. Yeah, but if that's not the way, if you go into a recruiter and it doesn't change, it's the same thing. You're applying straight to that firm. It's just the option. It's just the way to get into that different. No change in pay. Nothing is different. And in fact, going to a recruiter can be faster. Can be a lot faster than applying directly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I have a question for Mrs. Stoyin, and where I need you to come in, Mr. Nojima, I'll let you know.
That's okay.
Because I think we have a couple of questions for Mrs. Stoyin. So the first one is, someone is asking, how do we go about getting remote jobs in Nigeria? And I want to believe this is asking about global remote jobs.
Yes. So remote job is fast becoming a thing. I know it's very popular in the tech space, but also in the accounting and finance industry also. Let's say the job industry also is also something that organizations are also exploring. And the routes have seen that a few people have taken to secure remote jobs, even though they are in Nigeria, is first of all by volunteering. Najim said something which is foundational to every employer around the world, which is before an employer brings you on board, they want to know what you can do. So what you should have at the back of your mind is, how can I prove or show an employer I want to work with that this is what I can do? That's very important. And that's where volunteering comes in. When you volunteer for this organization, I know we've once had a techie accountant. The last time I checked the attendees, I think I saw her name. She's not in the UK though. We had a techie accountant that secured a remote job while she was in Nigeria. And how she was able to achieve that was by volunteering. She said, she told me that during COVID, instead of just staying idle, she was online looking for organizations that needed accountants as volunteers and things like that. Then she saw an NGO, I think it was a not-for-profit organization though, in the US. She volunteered um, with them. I can see she's here. Rita is here. She's talking already. Yeah, she volunteered with them, and by so doing, they had an experience of what she's capable of. And when they wanted to get an accountant from the NGO, they reached out to her. She did not even apply for it, and they offered her, that remote job while she was in Nigeria. She was working remotely, and they were paying her in dollars. You can imagine. So, and it was good pay. The exchange rate. So, and it was good pay for her, and eventually she now relocated to UK. So that is just one example that I know that has happened to someone. So first thing I would say is that if you want to get remote jobs, um, try and seek out for opportunities to volunteer for the organizations you like to work with around the world. Whether they are even asking for, or whether they are requesting or not, you can reach out on your own. Najim also said something that I think is fundamental, which is LinkedIn. You need to social media presence on, especially on LinkedIn. I'm not talking about Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Your LinkedIn presence is very, very important. And you don't know how powerful LinkedIn can be. So LinkedIn, your page should be a page whereby you showcase your skill, your ability, your work. That's very, very key. And by so doing, that will give you a higher chance. When people know that, oh, you can solve this problem, they just reach out to you, even without you applying for such roles. However, I know that there are also sites that get to post for remote jobs where they advertise for remote jobs. You can look out for such sites as well. But most importantly, I'm sure even if you apply there, they'll still bounce back on your LinkedIn. They'll want to see the kind of skill, the kind of organizations you've worked with. So even when you're writing your LinkedIn profile, don't just say I prepare financial statements. It's better you write it in the form of achievements, saying you can talk about the complexity of the kind of the financial statement you've prepared, by making reference to the revenue of the organization in billions, in millions of dollars. The point is that you really, really need to just articulate your skill and your capability in a way that is convincing. And please don't lie. So it's important you have the skill. Because these people are not foolish. Even if they give you the opportunity, trust me, you're going to first test your ability to be certain that you have what it takes. So please don't go embarrass yourself and destroy your career even before it takes off. Don't create a bad reputation for yourself. So these are the few things I think you should pay attention to. Beyond that, also, I know that I am beginning to see a trend whereby finance professionals, especially those in the advisory sector, that has to do with accounting, financial advisory and the likes, are beginning to have, if you have the data analysis and analysis skill. What do I mean by that? Especially data visualization skill. That will give you, I believe that will give you another competitive edge. There's no employer in this world that would not love an employee or an accountant or a finance professional that knows how to, solve problems for them. And will I say solve problems, or will I say analyze data? Remember that as accountant, what do we analyze? In taxes and financial reporting, we are actually analyzing data. So my point here is that there's no employer in the whole wide world that will see a finance professional that is able to articulate, this data in a way that gives him a very appealing visualization, and at the same time is able to draw insight from it just at a glance. and the employer will not be all over you. I can tell you that for a free because I'm an employer also. So if I see someone that has that ability, trust me, it's going to be an easy pass. And you must just find a way also to articulate this. It's very important. I think Najim laid a very strong foundation regarding anything we'll be saying henceforth. So please just pay attention to those points.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Before we continue, someone is asking for your LinkedIn profile. Mr. Najim, do we have permission to share your LinkedIn?
It's open source.
Of
You
course.
can just search my name and it's there. So,
Okay, so I will be sharing the links of Mrs.
okay.
Toyin and Mr. Najim in the chat box, so you can follow them and follow their posts. Mrs. Toyin, somebody is asking before we move on, how visible is a volunteering job? Can we reach out? Yes.
Hey, yes. Kemi just answered. Kemi even knows the answer.
I did not answer. I didn't answer.
I thought you just. Okay, Kemi, I give you the permission to answer, please.
No, this is a setup, please. This is a setup.
Please reach out. That's fine.
Okay, so I will share the email.
So when you even say you are volunteering, I will always tell people, right? Nobody wants, as far as you can add value, no matter how little, you always be given an opportunity. We've had instances whereby, we gave someone an opportunity. This happened recently, and within 1 month, it was as good as the person was doing us a favor. So my point is that as far as you can add value, I will always say that everybody can add value to any organization at different levels. So have that at the back of your mind. As far as you're able to prove that, why not? You'll be given an opportunity.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned something about data analytics for finance professionals. Are there specific industries or sectors where data analytics is particularly in high demand within finance, or does it apply generally?
So I think basically the way I even see data analytics is that it just is a tool, especially the visualization aspect of it. It's a tool that I think gives more credence to the work that we do as finance professional or as accountants. And that's why I would say that every accountant, no matter the level of your career or whatever level you find yourself, it's a skill that you must have at the moment. We were opportune to train KPMG sometime earlier in the year on data analytics, and it was for the advisory team. Apart from that, I also remember that I spoke to one of our ex-staff that is now working with the Big Four, and he was telling me how it was a much needed tool, and it was in the tax department. At that point in time, they were working on stamp duties, from banks in Nigeria. You can imagine how voluminous the data were, and they were struggling. He told me how he was struggling to be able to first of all, even analyze data, let alone being able to do his work, and how he had to go online to pick up some data analysis skill just for him to be able to, get his work done. So my point here is that there are some aspect of data analysis that I believe just gives us the ability to do more with our work as finance professional, and that's why I encourage every finance professional to pick up that skill. It could be the beginner's level. I'm not telling you to go and do Python, SQL. You can only dive into that if you really want to become a data analyst, and you want to become you want to pivot. Well, I say pivot here to some extent in your career. But if you still want to stay the course of finance and accounting, it's very important you pick the skill so that you are more efficient at your work. Remember, I said something, the amount of data available to every organization right now, it is unprecedented. So what that means is that the kind of data we are used to working with, the volume has increased. The question is, if you are given this kind of data, how are you going to work with it? What's going to be your excuse? I was not taught in school. Definitely not. And that's not what any employer wants to hear.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm sure I've shared some links in the chat box. So if you want to follow our speakers, you can follow them. Also, if you're interested in data analytics training, a specific training for finance professionals, the link is in the chat box. You can also sign up. It is starting next month. So you can sign up, and I'll be sharing the link for the person that asked to register. So I have one more question for Mrs. Toye, and the question is, for someone who has worked with global international firms, are there specific skills that are highly sought after by global finance teams? And how can finance professionals develop proficiency in these skills? Are there specific skills that they need to have to position themselves properly for global finance jobs?
Okay, so so I would say that it depends on the area that you've chosen to specialize in. So I can't just say that there is any skill that cuts across the different area of specialization that we have in our industry. You know, if it is tax, you know that you have to be up to date with the changing with the taxes, with the tax laws. Like in Nigeria now, we have Finance Act 2023. How many of you have read it? You know, the same thing. I know that in UK as well, every year they have their act is being reviewed like on a yearly basis. So I remember when I was writing ACCA, one of the reasons I did not fill the paper, and funny enough, I did very well. By the way, not Jim, I had 86. Let me brag a little.
Wow.
So, Brian, don't mind me. So, but one of the things that that made me not to fill that paper was because I know that the next year, when I was going to write the paper, a few things would have changed. So that means I will have to, I'll have to study afresh, or I'll be learning something new. So I just told myself that, hello, you just have to pass this paper, the one time that I wrote the paper, and I did. But my point here is that it depends. But basically, generally, as Najim said, if you have the professional certification that exists in accounting or in finance, I think that you're already on the right path. You're already on the right path. Then as you move up in life, if you're not specialized in an area, you cannot choose to have the certification that exists in those areas. Like the financial analyst, you may want to pick an FMVA, certification and things like that. So that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so because of time, we won't be able to take any more questions. And thank you, Mr. Anojim, for answering the ones in the Q&A. So if you had dropped yours in the Q&A, you would have been responded to. So I think that is all. Thank you very much, Mr. Anojim, for your time and for for explaining carefully the things that we need to know. And I want to believe that we are a lot more knowledgeable for those that have plans. You can take to the chat box and appreciate our guest speaker. If you found this very insightful, let's know in the chat box. Please use the chat box and let us know. Say your thank yous and let him know, or share one or two things that you learned during this session. It will be nice to know that you found it insightful, and that the reason why you're here, at least you stayed till the end, so it was surely worth your time. Thank you, Dari, for reaching out. Thank you too for joining and staying to the end. Elizabeth is saying thank you. The thank yous are pouring in. Thank you, Mr. Najim. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I've shared the links. I'm still expecting a lot more thank yous though. I've shared the links to, you can follow us on YouTube. We have like amazing resources on our YouTube channel. You can follow us. You can join our newsletter. We have specific people that we write to, so you can sign up. You can follow Mr. Anojim on LinkedIn, follow Mrs. Toye on LinkedIn also. And if you would like to take our data analytics course, the training is starting next month. Yes, next month. You can sign up and you get an email in the coming week. If you want to watch the session,
you should give Najim, sorry, please, Kim. Please.
Yeah.
Can you give Najim the opportunity to, his final advice or something to them?
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All right. You have the floor.
Okay, so I think I said it before. So I'll say that nothing good comes easy. So we need to anything you need to put in the effort. You cannot afford to give up. Some people will be lucky. I mean, for example, I told you I did perhaps applications in hundreds, but I know somebody with only 3, and they're in the UK already. So, but you need to be prepared to put in the efforts, especially if you are convinced that this is what you want to do. I don't expect people to just relocate for the sake of relocating. You need to be clear that this is the next thing you think you desire in your life, in your career. And if you are that convinced, then you should be prepared to put that effort to get it. Speak with more people. Don't just listen to me or to you. Speak to many more people that you know, that you think they can be helpful to you, and get as much advice as you can get while you continue to make the efforts. And then give up, but ultimately you will get it. Yeah. And people that choose to stay back in Nigeria, I mean, a lot of successful people are still back at home there. So it doesn't mean that going to the UK makes you more successful. Nah, it doesn't make sense. It's just about what you want in your career, what you want for yourself. I mean, that's what you want, then put in that effort and surely get it.
Okay. Thank you so much. We're so grateful. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you. Okay, you can check out the replay on YouTube. So I've sent the link to our YouTube page. You can check it out on YouTube. The replay is there. I'm not sure we're sharing the replay to anybody. Someone says Mr. Najim needs to be a prof. Then you did so well. Wow.
I don't even have a master's degree.
It's not too late to start. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm still trying to go through the comments to see what everybody has to say. Okay, the recording, please check YouTube, the Techie Accountant on YouTube. We have the recording there. Okay, guys, thank you so much. There are some in the Q&A. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Najim, and I hope that you have an amazing week ahead.
All right, thank you to and everyone else. Thank you for anchoring this. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. We're grateful. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.